Hello, and welcome to this special presentation from City Channel Pittsburgh. I'm Joy LeViere. Joining me today is Erika Strassburger, Councilwoman-elect. Erika, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So first, congratulations on winning March's special election. Can you tell me about your emotions on election night as those results were coming in?
I think to sum it up in one word, it would be surreal. The whole day was a whirlwind. The advice I got from people who had gone through that process before, other previous or sitting city council members said, just try to enjoy it. It's a stressful day, it's a nerve-wracking day in a lot of ways. So I tried to enjoy the whole process as much as possible, and there were some really amazing things that happened throughout the day, and just being out at the polling locations and seeing everybody out voting was amazing and incredible. I can't tell you what it means to have people from the community come out to support you. But the evening of, it was a whirlwind. I found out that I had won and got kind of ushered into my victory party, and it was incredible just to see all the people who had been there for me the entire campaign all in one room supporting me and cheering. It was incredible and a moment I won't ever forget.
So was it strange to see your name in the newspaper and on television? Have you gotten used to that limelight yet?
So I had some experience seeing my name in newspapers or hearing myself on the radio or seeing myself on TV in the past when I was an advocate for Penn Environment, and prior to that, Environment New Hampshire. So that wasn't so strange to me, but seeing my face in the newspaper, seeing myself on TV, or just being recognized by people at events has been the strangest part. People know my face, and I'm starting to be recognized when I go to events. So that's a little bit strange. I'm not someone who runs toward attention or public notoriety. I like being a bureaucrat, so I really was truthful when I said I just wanted to get to work on election night, because that's what I like to do. I like to do the work, and I'm not here for the accolades. But it's something that I've gotten used to a little bit.
So at this point, most people know that you're no stranger to City Hall. You've been working as a chief of staff for 4 years. So how has that experience prepared you to take a seat at the table?
I think it's prepared me in a couple of ways. One, I just know the projects that we're working on that are priorities for District 8. I've taken the calls from the constituents over the last 4 years, and so I know what concerns people. I know what the issues are that people are most concerned about, so that if I'm out there serving my constituents, I know I can vote in their conscience, knowing their priority issues. I also think it helps when I have staff that I will be able to better direct my chief of staff, my legislative associate, because I will have been in their shoes. I will have known what it feels like to be a staff person for a council member, and I'll be able to manage them better. But essentially, priority issues and priority concerns and the projects that we're working on are the main ways that I think I'll really be able to hit the ground running.
So let's go back in time a little bit. You're not originally from Pittsburgh. Can you tell us a little bit about your background, where you came from, and how you got to be here in Pittsburgh?
I'm not from Pittsburgh originally, so I grew up in the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area, and lived there through my childhood until I graduated high school. And then, this is the strangest part of the story, I ended up at Bucknell University in central Pennsylvania. And I think part of the reason I ended up there was I had relatives in Pennsylvania, my grandparents. Both of my parents are from eastern Pennsylvania. And from there, I wanted to stay on the East Coast. I really enjoyed the eastern part of the US. So I took a job with a group called Environment America and worked for Environment New Hampshire in Concord, New Hampshire for 4 years. And there I met a Pittsburgher who's now my husband, and he said, give it a shot, give Pittsburgh a try for 2 years. And I did, and I thought when I first moved here, I'll give it a shot, maybe move back to California after 2 years, and just fell in love with the city, fell in love with the neighborhood I live in, Squirrel Hill, and it sucked me in. And now I feel like I can be an ambassador for Pittsburgh because I know what it's like in California, I know what it's like in other parts of the country. I can just honestly say that Pittsburgh is a really special place to be.
So what are your first priorities once you have a seat at the table?
Well, I think the first priorities are what a lot of people are talking about over the kitchen tables or thinking about, and certainly what I heard on the campaign trail and what I've heard the last 4 years. We need to fix our infrastructure and particularly our water system. We need to ensure that the water that's coming out of our tap is safe, that people feel confident that it is healthy water that they can drink without filters, specifically identifying all of the lead service lines in the city and replacing them. And a similar issue, but a little bit different, is ensuring that every time it rains, we fix the problem of sewage overflowing into our rivers. And so that's my solution for that is green infrastructure, a green first approach to allow the land and our roads and our parking lots and our parks to naturally soak up more of the rainwater runoff, and to stop kind of the basement flooding that we've seen all over the city. That's one major priority. Another one is safe streets, and kind of using the complete streets model so that everyone who's driving or riding a bike or walking or using a wheelchair feels safe traveling our streets, that there are specific places for each person, and that everyone is able to really get to where they want to go using those modes of transportation or public transportation in a kind of safe, reliable way. Another priority is, as we grow as a city, as District 8 specifically is undergoing major growth and a lot of development that people are seeing, that we do so in a way that is equitable, so that everyone, that we grow the pie, that everyone gets a piece of the pie, and that we do so in a way that everyone can really be a part of the growing city and the benefits that growth brings.
So you may have touched on this a little bit, but what are the biggest issues facing District 8?
So that's exactly it. Managing growth is and all the good and all the challenges that come along with growth. And that is everything from quality of life issues like traffic and parking. I mean, for a city that has been managing decline for about 30, 40 years now, people aren't used to driving to a certain location and circling to get a parking spot or dealing with traffic, and it's a sign that things are turning up, for the city. We have more population, at least in District 8, than we did 40 years ago, and there's a lot of good stuff happening. It's economic growth, but at the same time, there are challenges that come along with it. Increasing property values, if that happens too quickly, or if that happens faster than wages and other kind of cost of living increases are able to keep up with kind of the property values, then there are going to be some people who aren't going to be able to afford to live in District 8 or will need to move, and we don't want that to happen. I think the district and the east end of the city is special in part because, at least when I moved here 10 years ago, you could see, someone who's a young family living next to someone who had lived in their the same home for 50 years, next to a grad student, and there was sort of a diversity, and I want to make sure that our neighborhoods remain diverse, and actually that we increase diversity, all sorts of diversity in our neighborhoods, like the East End.
It's very important, absolutely. So now, in an effort to get to know you a little better, I'm going to turn now to some viewer-submitted questions.
Okay.
So they want to know, what is your favorite spot in your district?
So it's not one spot, but it's the series of public steps that exist in Point Breeze. I think when people think of public steps throughout the city, they mostly think of the South Side slopes, or they think of parts of South Pittsburgh, or maybe parts of the North Side, but there are some hidden gems of public steps in Point Breeze that are like little portal ways from street to street. And I knew about some of them, but actually knocking on doors throughout the campaign when I was working to identify and turn out voters to the polls was how I discovered even more of them. So now I'm excited to, as the urban nerd that I am, to explore a little bit more of them.
We have an unbelievable amount of Pittsburgh steps.
We
so
do.
Get your exercise. And
Exactly.
So what is your favorite spot outside of the city? In the city, outside of your district?
Well, on the same theme, I like to take long walks throughout the city. And in fact, it's turned into a tradition on my birthday each year. So last year, we walked over to the south side slopes from Squirrel Hill and actually all the way up to Allentown. And it was the same kind of deal. I mean, what makes Pittsburgh special to me is its topography and its rivers. Because you go around a bend, if you're a newcomer, you don't know exactly what's going to be there. And I remember when I first moved here, always wondering, what is that across the river? What does it look like when you're actually walking those steep stairways or roads on the south side slopes? So I really like exploring some of the streets and the hidden bends and the steep roads and the staircases and steps of the south side slopes. I think it's just a really interesting neighborhood to me.
So we're the city of bridges, as you know.
Yes.
Do you have a favorite bridge?
Well, I love the Rachel Carson Bridge. I know that the lights that make it really, really special and have been in there for the last year or so are about to come down so that can be, renovated. But I think regardless of whether there are rainbow lights or whether it's, just the beautiful bridge that it is, it's a beautiful bridge to cross no matter which direction you're facing. And Rachel Carson represents someone special to me who was a pioneering environmentalist who stood up to the powers that be on issues she cared about, and that means a lot to me that there's a bridge named after her in Pittsburgh.
What about a tunnel? Do you have a favorite tunnel?
Well, I think the Armstrong Tunnel is interesting to me. It's not one that is as publicly known as some of the others or as publicized, but that has to be my favorite one.
Well, that's all for our viewer-submitted questions, but can we check in with you in the next 6 months?
Absolutely, I'd love that.
Absolutely. Wonderful. All right, that's all the questions I have. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Just really excited to get started and to serve District 8 and the city. So thanks for having me.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for joining us and taking time to sit down with us. I'm Joy LeViere for City Channel Pittsburgh. Thank you for watching.